Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and this week I'm joined by Susan and Alex over there across the pond.
Hello.
Um, we are discussing a 1972 movie, and this time it's a French movie. Let me try my French. Are you ready for this? The Grand Blonde Avec Une Chaussure Noire. How does that sound?
Yeah, that's fine.
There you are.
Speak
Don't
French,
laugh,
I
Ted.
do not. Je ne parle français.
Ah, yeah, and it's translated roughly is the tall blonde man with one black shoe. Um, and it's a story of people setting people up, a booby trap of a French is it government officials or spy officials? Because
Yeah,
they don't really sort of go into detail in the movie what department they are and stuff like that. But it's a comedy spy, shall we say, comedy spy movie. Um,
yep. And they did an American version with Tom Hanks.
yes, we
Uh,
know about that one.
yeah, unfortunately, it's not as funny because Tom Hanks is not he doesn't specialize in slapstick. So I don't know. John Ritter would have been the obvious choice. I don't know why they didn't choose him. Because as we know from watching both movies and the story, that is about 40% of it. That the Francois Perrat as the main blonde character with the fro, not to be confused with Colin Baker or anybody else, has a lot of pratfalls, and he actually does better than John Ritter. But I don't know why they wanted Tom Hanks because while he is funny, his slapstick is not his thing. The only time you see him really dancing is in Big.
Dick,
So I
yeah,
don't
Dick
know.
Van Dyke is another expert at that.
Right,
Yeah,
but the thing is, they also had to Americanize it, which was bad because you take away the music, you take away the art of the original two French movies.
hmm
And these are the original Peter Sellers. These are better than Peter Sellers. That's the only other way that they could have done this. But the problem is Peter Sellers is too old, whereas Francois is obviously, just in his 30s. He's not, he's still a young guy, even though he's very old fashioned in many ways. And he did have military service, and he did get a nurse pregnant. He did have a scare with getting a nurse pregnant, but she said no. And Colonel Toulouse in the French movie sets up his deputy because the deputy wants his job. So Parash and Toulouse set up the deputy to fall for the trap, the con of the tall blonde man is the super secret international agent. Go ahead there. I'll let you go on because I could tell the whole story. Because I grew up with these two movies. I grew up with these two movies. I wanted
well,
I wanted I wanted five, but unfortunately they talked about a third one and they decided not to do it because of Peter Sellers and they were worried about a story. And unfortunately, I think that Francois Perrat is the only guy alive. Everybody else died in 2017 or 2020. So everybody else in the cast is gone.
um, well, as I said, the main actor Pierre Richard as Francois Perron. Um, what as you say, slapstick comedy actor. Um, do you know what when I was watching this? If the Americans had redone this in the 70s, I could have just seen Gene Wilder doing that part. It
Yeah.
was so like the French actor. But to me, this I've never seen this movie before. I've seen the Tom Hanks remake from the mid 80s, and I don't really think much of that at all. But this is, as you say, slapstick. It's in the original language, French. Um, so you've got the subtitles at the bottom, of course, and it's just for me, it's the constant this department wants to find out why the other department's looking after this guy, and they say it's all a setup. It's just that his life in Paris, bedding these two women. I mean, yeah.
You know that musicians do get the ladies. Of course, he is a classical musician.
Yeah, there's a saying.
But musicians do get the ladies.
Yes, but very lucky man.
So in the American version, Paulette, the brunette with the glasses, was played by Carrie Fisher, which is a little weird. But she's very lustful for Francois, and still is even in the sequel, where they do play up a lot more of the James Bond. I remember watching this movie in the theater in Brookline, Massachusetts. And a lot of people in the audience didn't like the fact that they played up James Bond because Americans would get that confused with, Peter Sellers. And the other nice thing about Francois is he's not a jerk. Inspector Clouseau is a jerk, whereas Francois Perrat is innocent. He doesn't really know what's going on. And And in the sequel, what's his name? In the sequel, the guy that's playing the drums. Type it back in. The guy with the beanie.
Maurice.
Maurice. He ends up in the sequel coming up with the plot to defeat them all, which is pretty funny. That at first he's shocked, then he has a nervous breakdown when he sees all the carnage and all the people getting shot and dead. And in the sequel, he comes up with the plan to confuse everybody else, which is where. And then in the sequel, Toulouse is confused at first, but then he picks up and he finishes the plot and ends up in a place. Yeah, he doesn't deserve it, but he does. He is the kingmaker, the mastermind. So even in the sequel, he does settle it. As well as he can do.
Maurice is such a hopeless, pathetic character. I just love how he's bicycling by that surveillance van that looks like a flower truck.
Yeah, it is a flower truck.
And he's just like, riding, and all of a sudden he hears his voice, the voice of his wife in the van, having sex with someone who sounds like our hero, our erstwhile hero, and then she is, and then she asks him to do the horsey, and he does it, and that's just like that is so funny.
Yeah, and then Maurice falls off the bicycle. Now, the funny, like I said, in the second movie, the tall blonde man with the red shoe, that's where the Americans got the title from, because Francois somehow has trouble walking in the movie. He either walks in the wrong direction or he like bends his foot somehow, sideways, you bend your foot.
He rolls his ankle.
Yeah, he rolls his ankle. So he takes off his shoe in the airport. He's all in black and silver violin case.
And he sets it on the people mover, and it falls into a thing of paint. So
his black shoe falls into the red paint. So that's how come he has the red shoe. Whereas in this movie, the brown and black shoe, some kids played a prank on him and stole one of his shoes. So because he didn't want to go shoe shopping, he came back to the airport with one brown shoe and one black shoe wingtip.
So funny.
So he's an awkward guy. He's not a dumb guy, but he's an awkward guy. And the only other thing that's similar in a way is that he doesn't seem to pick up on a lot of social cues.
So you think he may be autistic?
No. Again, this is the 70s, so even if he was, he wouldn't have been called that anyway.
Okay, true.
But there is a scene in the original movie where he's trying to give people violin lessons, and he's not picking up the cue that they actually don't want the violin lessons, even if they're playing the violin. So he misses some things, and that's the essence of the comedy as well. The 40% slapstick, maybe a little bit more. I think it might be 45. You remember when all the agents went into Francois' apartment and they're taking pictures and they're searching his clothes and they're searching his mattress and all that. And apparently, Francois didn't realize that they had changed the shaving cream to the toothpaste tube and the toothpaste to the shaving cream.
Oh my God.
And apparently he wasn't even smart enough to pick up on the cue that something was wrong. He didn't immediately spit it out and go, "What the hell's going on?" You know what I mean? You see that he's confused, but you don't see him pick up quick enough to say, "Why doesn't this smell or feel like what I always use?"
Maybe it becomes a human bubble machine.
Right, yeah. So yeah, it's not that he's dumb, but he's very innocent. And then in the second movie where they're in Brazil, where they turn the theme song into a Brazilian number, a samba number.
But we only were really
right, but
the first one.
Right, but why I'm saying this is because when you see it in the theater, and I guess this has always been in print, so even though you can't really see it on any legal streaming site, it's always been in print. So funny enough that these two weird movies that remind one of Peter Sellers or John Ritter is still in print. I mean, this came out in 1972, so that's a long time. And everybody's dead except him. So think about that. You have two wild comedy movies that are supposed to be about having privacy. And this is before, everybody had a computer, everybody had a credit card, everybody had a cell phone, everybody had a smartphone. And it's still a little bit connected to today because that could still happen to anybody. It just would be a lot harder to do.
Yeah, true.
So it's a little bit of a spy. It's a spy spoof.
Yeah.
It's a Watergate spoof. It is a government overstepping its bounds. Because like I said, in the second movie it gets wilder, even though it's ironically, as you just said, Gene Wilder, it gets wilder, but it is also a little bit more of James Bond. But the other funny thing is, when they're in the airport and he doesn't realize that they're watching his phone calls, they're listening in, they bug his apartment. They bug the apartment of the woman that he sleeps with, the blonde Agent Christine in the original movie. Fire alarm went off, so hopefully our power doesn't go off. So I mean, it is kind of funny. And of course, the spies are watching them as they're having their date in the apartment and sex and stuff. So it's kind of. And then as he's leaving the apartment, as Francois is leaving the apartment, kind of dancing because I guess they were, having sex 3 times or whatever. They sent agents to kill him. And funny enough, Toulouse's agents get them just in the nick of time so that the tall blonde man, Francois, doesn't realize that he could have been killed at that point.
But he keeps ducking and moving and just
right. So the funny thing is,
the hair.
Right. So it's not only funny about the theme song that was also written by the guy that did music for Rocky and the Karate Kid, the flute, the Zamfir, yep. But when I keep seeing it in the movie, the timing is so good, and the slap. Don't you think so? That the timing, his slapstick timing, is so good.
It's facial expressions as well.
Yeah.
As you say, it's a very visual actor, which helps the movie along.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because in the 80s. Then he was paired up with Gerard Depardieu that we keep hearing about, even though he's getting a little long in the tooth. and he's also getting into trouble because apparently he can't be in public places and behave. But it is funny how the blonde guy, the actor Pierre Richard, in the '80s was a buddy. He had like 6 or 7 buddy flicks with, Gerard Depardieu.
Oh, cool.
As well. So he still plays a similar character,
Okay.
but not exactly the same.
Okay, let's lead to his favorite moments and things because I heard all yours.
Well, yeah, most of them, yeah.
I did to begin with. I loved the intro credits to the movie with the cards. I thought I was just dumbfounded watching that, with the hands and the playing cards with all the names of the actors on it, and I thought that was a good way to start a movie. And then, one of my favorite. Well, I do like the idea of the spies following the stool pigeon. That's the way of the movie. One of my favorite bits is where Maurice takes him for training him on a bicycle, and they're following him in the car, but every time they turn around the corner, there they are pumping the bikes up.
Yeah. Yep.
Just every corner you go around, they're pumping the tires up.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a hard job following them. The orchestra scene where Maurice is staring daggers at his wife, and Francois is watching everything and missing his cues. Great scene that. It's filled with little things here and there. That little visual comedic scene where one of the members who were searching Francois's apartment with the Russian dolls. That's all he's doing is the Russian dolls. Yeah. Everybody else is tearing everything up, and he just stood there, another Russian doll. Yeah. It's a visual comedy as well in this. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I mean, I've never seen it before, so I enjoyed it.
What about the fact that the amazing instruments on all the walls and the bagpipes attacking him, and the bagpipes that come to life, and all these other weird things that go on in both of these movies and then the fact that the guys that are doing the keys constantly have their hands like this, as they're touching the keys, and they're spreading out the pictures and all that. Meanwhile, Colonel Milan, who is the ambitious agent, and Captain Cambrai in the second one, know that they're smart, but they don't seem to have the imagination to put up with Colonel Toulouse and Parash, the guy that ends up being the real good spy and all, even though he allows it, unfortunately. But he's the one. Parash ends up picking Francois Perrat in the airport instead of a black guy. He could have chosen a black guy to be the secret spy, and he didn't.
Yeah, that was sort of playing on his mind halfway through the movie as well. Susan, anything what stands out for you?
I just love where he's in the bed, and the lights, he keeps turning off the lights, and the shooters keep missing, and then I love all the shower bits where he's coming in and out of the shower, and he's wearing the towel and trying to run with and it's just so funny.
Yeah. Well, because
you mean the French nudity, don't you?
I like the French nudity.
Well, of course, Lee, the funny thing is that this is part of the French New Wave.
Yeah.
From 1958 to 1988. And of course, the French don't have a problem with kissing and hugging and nudity. Whereas America, oh, let's blow up all the people. Let's have all the gore and the horror and the cutting people up. But we can't show a naked butt for even 10 seconds. I mean, he's in the bathtub, so most people don't take a bath with their clothes on. So that makes sense that he's naked.
Well, French movies are always well known for it because they didn't hold back with the nudity. They embraced it.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And then the other thing that I liked a lot is that he is he's a good musician, but you can tell that the actor had to like ham it up in terms of like his performance, and like that was just so funny in the orchestra. You know, missing his cues, like losing his place in the music. All that was so funny.
Well, it is also funny how there's like 3 sentences of English, and then in the sequel there's like 6 sentences of English. And then
the X-ray of the violin case, because you know, in the U.S. all gangsters have a violin case, right? And they put a gun in there.
That's a trope.
That was a trope. That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, I mean, and then you know, like I said, I've always loved this movie. I've always seen this movie and the Truffaut movies and a couple of other movies from like I said, 1958 to 1988. And it's funny how the blonde woman in this was also like, you know, Catherine Deneuve and all that, you know, blonde, very pretty.
Yeah, but she wasn't the one who was in all the stuff, all the porny stuff. That was this other woman, Claudine Beccari, who was uncredited. She was in all the porny stuff. But this woman, Mirelle Dark, she was in a bunch of stuff that was like sort of situational slice of life stuff.
Well, no, I thought I saw one movie, but that could have been a body double. But again,
but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's French, so they're not right. They're not against nudity like America is or British is.
But
that But in any case, I did see a couple of interviews, and they didn't think that it was going to be, you know, as big as it was. Like I said, I've seen many different versions. I've seen the VHS versions where they have a different picture, then the first DVD versions that they have a different picture of the movie. The laser disc is very, very cheap. You can get it for like $8. But then the laser disc machines, a lot of them are like $500. So I guess it is a double-edged sword there. But I guess you can get it on DVD or Blu-ray for like $40. The only other benefit is the interviews. I'd like to see more interviews. I can't find any on YouTube. And of course, it's a lot harder in video to put the English subtitles in if you're not part of the the production company. So, like I said, for a movie that technically actually helped comedy as a whole and was better than Peter Sellers and is still in print, it's so funny that they can't seem to put it back in the American culture. Because a lot of the independent cinemas did show this movie quite a bit. And like I said, no matter when I've seen it, what decade, what version, because the versions have changed depending on whether you saw the VHS or the Laserdisc. They have a different opening. But the funny and they did show it on independent TV stations as well. Of course, they did censor it more.
Do you mean like ITV?
No, I mean like independent TV stations.
Oh, okay.
They used to show, the creature movies, horror movies, British movies.
But this was something I hadn't seen before I met you, and I enjoyed this.
Yeah.
So it is incredibly funny, and it is incredibly it's incredibly
natural. It's natural.
It's natural, and I mean, it's really pretty. It's really well shot. It's a I mean, the sets are nice. The settings are pretty. I mean, I know it's just because it's like
Wow.
beautiful French settings, but
Yeah, because the sad part is, then when I would try to tell people about it, they're like, "Oh, it's like Peter Sellers." A little bit, but this one's better. This one's more natural. You know what I mean? Pierre Richard is so good. He's more natural than Peter Sellers. He might be similar, or maybe John Ritter could have ripped him off a little bit, but Pierre Richard is so natural that every time people see him move in the movie, or he's walking, or he's dancing, or whatever, people are laughing and smiling, and that's hard to do in slapstick. I don't know. I never could do it myself, but I don't know how many actors or dancers that we know that make everything look totally natural.
yeah,
It's not staged at all. With Peter Sellers, it's a little bit staged. You can tell
yeah.
that's not his natural.
Let's throw it back to
To be honest, though, when I was watching this, Peter Sellers didn't even enter my mind.
Yeah.
Not one bit. This was just something for Pierre Richard to do.
Right.
Nothing like Peter Sellers
At all. Doesn't
No.
remind you of the Pink Panther at all. Okay.
Well, the Pink Panther was before this.
Right. Yeah, but
So-
they were still making movies when this came out.
Yeah, totally. I think totally different kind of film franchises, and it didn't for me. Sellers never came into the thing, but I may have to watch it again and see if I think differently. But he never really entered my mind when watching it. Anything else?
I like the fact that there was really no actual need for a spy. It was just so much. It was just so much like conning and back and forthing, and like it was super. It was just like a mind game the whole time. That was really the interesting thing about the thing, is that for a spy movie there wasn't any spying going on.
Well, I mean, there was violence. There was violence going on.
There were some shots rang out, but no, I mean there was nothing really. They weren't working on some actual subversion. It was just
no, but think about this though.
Game.
It's one
like
thing, right? It's a dangerous game because he could have gotten killed. I mean, obviously, in real life, this would be a lot more dangerous, and he would have had a lot more attempts, and he would have had a lot more close calls. But I mean, you haven't seen the last 15 minutes of the second movie.
No, I know, but I did.
Where that becomes a lot more in play.
But the thing with all of these other like funny spy movies is that there is something subversive going on, and that there's always somebody trying to fix that thing.
Well, like I said,
this thing is like, it's just amusing because there isn't anything like, there's nothing like nation versus nation. But the point is that this tall blonde man, he gets around. I mean, he gets from nation to nation. He goes all over the world.
Well, because in the movie he's a musician. What I'm saying.
Any reason for them to fear him, because he's not actually like carrying state secrets or whatever.
Yeah, because he's a pawn in a game to get rid of a co-worker. And that's very scary, because remember, there's a lot of gunplay. And then when what was it, Colonel Milan, the chubbier guy that almost seems to have a nervous breakdown, as well as Maurice, You know, that's kind of creepy.
It is
At
creepy, but
at the end
but there's
when the colonel dies, that's
the
actually
stakes are
kind of creepy.
personal, not national.
Okay, but what I'm
That's
saying
all I'm
is,
saying.
but what I'm saying is, you know, if it even came close to happening in real life, that's not funny. That's a huge manipulation. You know,
No, not national.
anyway, national. Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, you know, it's funny how they were able to achieve that balance between it's a spy, it's comedy, it's personal, it's slapstick. But at the same point, what they're hinting at is not it's not a funny thing.
No, but
You know, but they made it funny.
yeah, but they
But I
did.
mean, can you imagine? I mean, imagine if somebody else in another job said, "Oh, you're a policeman, but you don't even know it," or "You're a fireman and you don't even know it,"
I know.
and then they build a whole conspiracy or a whole
I know.
game where you don't realize that you're working as a policeman or fireman.
This is something that you have to like remind Lee to be aware of, because he's in a government position, and he's always on the go in
Yeah.
his job.
Yeah,
So,
what if they looked at you one day, Lee, and said, "Okay, you're the CEO now, but you don't know it."
Well, I'd have a bit of fun.
Well, anyway,
There was there was one thing in this where they sort of touched on, but they never really answered it. Why didn't he go to the dentist?
because he was scared. He was scared, and I guess he doesn't
He
like
never
going to
really,
that.
because he never really said he was scared. He was the one who wanted the appointment. So
yeah.
I didn't get that bit. I mean, it added to the movie where there was following him to the dentist. You know, there was waiting. You know, but then he just disappeared and went on a rowing boat and had a lunch at the side of the pond. Um, but I just thought, well, that's a bit strange.
Well,
But
yeah, I mean, obviously for the pain, he probably wanted to go to the dentist, but you know, he either couldn't get in or he only has like two appointments.
no,
And
he got an appointment.
Yeah.
well, I mean, even one of the spies that's watching him going, well, he keeps saying that he'll go to the dentist, so he'll probably go, you know, he said something actually very smart. He was the smartest agent in the whole two movies beside Parash. That you know that he kind of said, "Is this a lie? Is he lying? You know, is this how he's a spy?" That he says he goes to the dentist, but he ends up going to an amusement park or you know some other thing. You know,
Yeah.
so that was and then the funny thing with the flower truck with all the listening devices. I remember when one of the other agents says, "Are these cigarettes yours?" And then you hear Francois over the microphone go, "Yes, they're mine." You know, and he did like a double take. You know, I remember.
There was a few double takes in this movie.
Yeah. So that was So I do love. You know, there are some movies that you need to go see it with an audience.
Mm.
It is kind of funny how
right.
there is the same type of reactions. Like in the second one, where he's getting a shoe shine, but it's one of the agents that's sent to kill him at first, but then and one of his arms is in a cast.
Mm-hmm.
And then Christine from across the street, you know, a very short distance away, waves at Francois, and then he jumps up. And the agent was trying to do the shoe shine box thing, and he didn't realize the Francois didn't see that he put his hand in the box. So when Francois jumped up to say hello to Christine, he was crushing his hand.
Right. There's a
so
that's in the second one.
Yeah,
but
so he's crushing his hand.
I haven't seen the second one, so I don't know what you're on about.
So we'll move to the second one at another time, and we'll definitely read
like I said,
series because the series is so funny.
Yeah, it is.
And it's so great.
Yeah.
And
yeah, they should have done a third one, but they didn't want to be compared to Peter Sellers.
Well, that's what you say, but I don't.
Well, no, because unless Lee knows of somebody, I mean, there was only like 4 actors in the 70s that were doing, physical slapstick, as most people had moved on because the Three Stooges had done it for so many decades. You know, the
Mhm.
physical slapstick and
There were lots of people who did that sort of thing, but there was
well, but not by the 70s though. That's the thing.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, by the
But
70s it had gone out of fashion, and they were trying to do, you know, other. That's Mel Brooks and other
he
people.
was tall like Van Dyke,
Yeah, he was tall. Yep.
and he was lanky uh like not Rod is it Roger Corman?
Wow.
Like the one who was on the Carol Burnett show?
Yeah, right. What a Harvey Korman.
Harvey Korman, yeah.
Yeah, but he was more verbal though. He was still more verbal.
Anyway, like that, like those two.
Well, like I said, like Lee said, Gene Wilder. Gene Wilder could have pulled it off. John Ritter
Yeah.
could have pulled it off. I really don't know why they chose Tom Hanks for that role and in the American version. I really
But
don't know why.
okay.
But
Let's see.
so
So, if we've gone through everything, shall we go final say and score?
Sure.
Over to you two.
well, like I said, I was raised on this movie. This is part of my French New Wave cinema experience. And like I said, it's funny for such a small movie that it still has an effect.
Mhm.
The flutist is still alive. The pan flutist is still alive. He also did music for Rocky and Karate Kid and The Tall Blonde Man as well. Those two movies. The blonde guy, tall blonde guy, is still alive. Unfortunately, everybody else is gone
Uh-huh.
because 50 years has gone by, and the movie's still in print. So it's one of these sleeper movies and one of these independent movies. Because I know that both in Cambridge, Channel 38 showed it both as the original French version and the dub version with the horrible translation. And Channel 56 showed it a few times. And then I guess people here didn't necessarily like it, I guess. So it didn't go to a third network. But
It's kind of
yeah.
it's a little dated, but go on.
But so for a movie that's dated, for a movie that is so similar to other movies that we can think of or other styles we can think of, it's still in print. There's so many other movies that aren't in print. It has a laser disc. It has a VHS. It has 2 new DVD versions with interviews. So it's kind of funny how, even though when we see it with an audience, they're whistling the theme song, they're laughing at the jokes, they're laughing at Pierre Richard's timing and falling, and it's so natural that even when he gets hit with the bagpipes in the nose, people are still laughing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where almost any other actor that wouldn't have people rolling in the aisles, but he does it so natural that people are laughing. And of course, everybody else likes the cast in the 2 movies.
Okay,
Right.
so what would you rate it out of 10?
Oh, you know what I'm rating it? I'm rating it a 20. But
20 out of 10?
yeah, because like I said, this is one of the original movies that, you know, and this was part of the French New Wave from, I mean, Leslie disagrees. I think it's part of the French New Wave from 1958 to 1988, and then the French movies changed. They became very modern and very, you know, where you couldn't tell the difference between an American film, except for the ones with what's her name, Helena
Bonham Carter?
Yeah, where she had a few movies where she spoke English, she spoke French,
Okay.
and 2 other modern movies in the last 30 years.
Okay.
But and then Truffaut as well. I don't know if Lee has seen a lot of Truffaut movies. I tried looking up in Amazon, and they're expensive, these movies. Truffaut was also one of the fathers of the French New Wave cinema. And they're very, as much as I like Truffaut movies, they're very expensive on DVD. But I definitely love French New Wave. I know that French has changed, it has a lot more English and internet terms now. So unfortunately, if you get the French version, you are listening to the old French. They don't talk this way anymore. as far as I'm aware.
I don't know. I don't think that they've changed that much, but I also think that it was a really funny movie, and I enjoy it. I have a lot of I have a lot of affection for this film, and I think it is really hilarious, and I like the Jeopardy without the national Jeopardy, so that kind of dichotomy makes it really cool too. So I will give this a 9.5 out of 10.
Oh,
And
So Lee,
Old
would you?
Guns
Yeah.
out of
what
So-
would I give it? Hmm.
Yeah. So Lee, even though I've given away some of the second movie, would you like to still see it to see how?
yeah, we
how
should
the
do
scene-
the rest of
how
the
the
series.
scenes.
I would check it out at some point. Yes.
Yeah, we'll do
Uh,
the rest of the series.
Um, for me, now I haven't mentioned this through the whole lot, but I do struggle with subtitles in movies. So you're watching what's going on the screen, but you're also reading the thing at the bottom. So I always found that you miss things when you're reading, the words at the bottom. So that's going to affect the score for me.
Okay, that's valid.
Well, yeah, I mean they do have the dub versions, but the problem is you lose some in the translation though.
Those damn French. Why did they have to speak in that language? Yeah, I'm going because it is a little bit dated as well. Like you've mentioned, it's just a little bit dated now. But I'm still going to give it 8.5 violins out of 10.
Yeah.
It's the slapstick is brilliant in this, and you can't beat a bit of slapstick. There's as you say, there's not many people doing slapstick these days. It's one of the oldest forms of comedy. They should revive it.
When you're dealing with an orchestra, you're always going to get a little violins on the movie. Sorry. I'll be here all night.
But all in all, though, with all our scores there, we all seem to have enjoyed it. So that's that. So nobody's really disappointed with it. Nobody's giving it a 2 or a 5. So
Yeah. Well, it's funny because apparently there was somebody else on YouTube who did the original French version and the American version. And I guess originally they wanted to show the movies, and YouTube, of course, wouldn't let it. So it is kind of funny how even they don't like the American version either, because it's different. It's imitating the first movie, but it is not. It's not keeping in the spirit of the series.
Yeah.
So even though it was a 6-hour video, when they kept it on YouTube, it went down to like 3 hours and a half. And apparently, like I said, for a movie that's small, for a series that is small, for making fun of spies and Watergate that is so dated now.
That one spoke for 3 hours about this movie.
No, they spoke about the French version and the American version with Tom
But
Hanks.
they spoke for 3 hours.
Yeah,
about
well, like I said,
That's
they wanted
amazing.
to do more.
They must have really had something to say.
They wanted to do more, but I guess they were censored by Amazon or whatever. That's the only other benefit of Amazon. We could have seen this on Amazon, but it wasn't allowed in our location.
Right.
So it's only because I love this movie so much that I wish I had all the versions. But like I said, VHS, Laserdisc is barely $10. The two movies, one set in 72, so that's the 60s, just at the beginning of the 70s, and 75 with the Brazilian, because they're in Brazil.
And we were there. Yeah. We were there the very next year.
Yeah,
in Brazil.
Right, and they're showing the Jesus, they're showing the building and the Jesus statue right
Corcovado.
next to each other.
Yeah.
And they're showing the beach, and they're showing other girls in the very skimpy bikinis and all that.
Well, that's Copacabana,
right.
Ipanema.
Yeah. So, and you can see like people that you even see a hot air balloon in the background.
Yep.
Of the movie. I was like, wait a minute, there's a hot air balloon in the. So I was like, this is very natural, And I think people like that. I think people like the fact that this movie is so natural, even with all the video shots and the spy stuff and the cameras and the mics and all that, is that it's still a very natural movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why people, laugh so much at this movie, because it's so it is like, I think that's why they probably compare it to Peter Sellers, because it is like the first two movies of the Peter Sellers.
Yeah, you said that. That's all right.
Right. Well, like I said, it's very interesting. I'm sorry that they've taken it off of YouTube, so you can't see any more than 2 minutes of it. Because, like I said, I remember seeing it in so many theaters. I don't know. I haven't gone in the last 10 or 20 years to see this movie again. But back in the 70s to the 90s, people were whistling the theme song as they're coming out of the theater. People are talking about how funny it was, how natural it was, how they want to see it again. You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny for such a small movie. Like I said before, it's still in print. Do you know a lot of movies, even British movies, that started out very small and then they're still in print? Or is it just like the cult movies like Rocky Horror Picture Show and all that?
Excalibur.
That they keep going.
They just keep going and going. They're infamous for just gathering more and more followers, viewers, and as you said, this is mostly one of those. Then,
yeah.
Rocky Horror is a little different, but they're still going on. They're still going on.
That's actually produced by an American.
Yeah, well, it was a mix. It was a mix. But I mean, except for like Queen and the Beatles, I don't know if Oasis is still going on. I guess they're going to reunite. I guess.
Next year they've sold out concert reunite concerts.
Yeah, but I mean, beside Rocky Horror Picture Show and Doctor Who, do you know of any other British inventions that are still have an audience 50 years later?
Yeah, they all do.
Except for maybe
they all do. Okay, they all do.
British inventions will have audiences. Television, telephone. They are.
Internet is actually getting up there. Actually,
internet,
yeah. I mean, yeah. So the internet was around in the 80s, but it wasn't as big and pretty.
It isn't just French movies that just carry on. There's a lot of these things that carry on.
Oh, Carry On series. There you go. Carry On series.
I only speak what I know,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Lee, do you think, now that she brought up a good point, do you think that the Carry On series will still be going on in, 2050? Do you still think there'll be more than 10 people watching that series?
Yes.
They still show them on certain channels over here, but they're edited, really edited down, and they're not what they used. They're just taking all the humor out of them.
Politically correct. They have to be, and that's the point of the movies. They're not politically correct. That's the point.
They just ruin it, and you're watching it, you're thinking, well, they've taken all the humor out of it. So I don't think it will. People will still love them for what they were, but these companies just ruin them by cutting them and editing them. Then what's the point of watching them from?
Well, is it unedited if you get it on DVD or Laserdisc or whatever?
Yeah, it's unedited. Yeah, you get the original. You get the original movie, which I have.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that was our little review of Le Grand Blanc Avec Une Chaussure Noire.
Yeah.
The tall blonde man with one black shoe, of course. Or it could have been called the tall blonde man with the one brown shoe. Depends which way.
And red too.
And
And
Red, yeah.
and the sequel, yeah.
So I'd like to thank Susan and Alex for discussing this, because we don't often discuss a foreign language movie. Is this the first one we've done, Susan?
I don't know. I don't.
Well, I
I'm not
don't know.
100% sure.
Is Metropolis? Well, Metropolis wasn't exactly a foreign language movie. There's not a lot of dialogue.
The same movie.
Well, no, it was. Yeah, wasn't it made? It was made in another country, wasn't it? Metropolis.
Yes, but it's still, there was no talking.
Yeah.
So this would be most probably the first one in a foreign language that we've done. So it's something different. We've sat down and watched it all together. So yeah, I'd like to thank you two for joining us today, and people out there, if you haven't done me, listen to Alex, go and try and find it and watch it. See what you think about it. Leave a comment below on the video. Let us know what you thought of the movie. Leave a comment on the video if you would like to join our little happy family discussing movies and TV and audio dramas. All we ask you to be is 18 plus. You'll find this video on all the social media platforms. 18 plus, please, because some movies are 18 rated and we don't want to get into trouble, do we? So is that everything, Susan?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so, yeah. So until next time, guys, please be safe and watch your back, because you never know who's following you. Bye for now.